And now, my friends, this is the part I think you may have all been waiting for. Now, it's storytelling time. Woohoo! Yeah. And this time I'm going to tell a story. However, I'm going to tell it with my musician friends. And you know, I love telling stories with musicians because, well, instruments are like magic wands. Well, they can create entire worlds with their music. For example, with the simple wave of a bow, we can enter into a whole new world. Listen and imagine a happy breeze dancing through a garden. Or perhaps butterflies fluttering amongst the flowers. Or perhaps a gardener working on a new plot of soil. And so, today, through the magic of music, words, and of course, your imagination, we'd like to tell you the story of Peter Rabbit. But before we begin, allow me to introduce you to the characters. Now, of course, there's Peter Rabbit himself, who will be played by the lively and energetic clarinet. There's Mrs. Rabbit, who'll be played by the ever-loving Viola. And finally, last but not least, there's Mr. McGregor the gardener, who'll be played by the serious trombone. And so, let us begin now the story of Peter Rabbit. Once upon a time, and an hour before supper, Peter Rabbit, together with his siblings Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, were all hopping about their home, making quite the racket. You can't get me! Yes, I can! You stop right there! No, get him! Ow! Your foot's in my ear! Ow! Well, all the noise was a bit too much for Mrs. Rabbit, who was busily preparing her famous blackberry pie dessert. Children, she said, why don't all of you go play outside? But please, stay close to home. Dinner's almost ready, and I'm fixing your favorite dessert. Yes, Mother! The children cheered as they all hopped out the door. Woohoo! Woohoo! Yeah! Woohoo! I'll get there first! rabbits were happy and content to just play about in the grass. Well, that is, except for Peter, who had other ideas. "I'm going off to Mr. McGregor's garden," he said. But you can't," said Cottontail. "Oh, Mama said to stay close to home." "I know, but, well, the garden isn't that far. And besides, by the time I go and come back, Mama won't even know that I was gone. I'll be all right. See you later." And with a skip and a hop, Peter set off for Mr. McGregor's garden. Hi, beautiful bird. Oh, you're so beautiful. Well, by the time Peter arrived at the garden, he had worked up quite the appetite. And what better place for a hungry rabbit to be than in a garden? So, Peter squeezed through a little hole in the fence and cautiously looked around for Mr. McGregor. Luckily, he was nowhere in sight, and so Peter ever so quietly made his way to his favorite spot in the garden, the carrot patch. Now, on the way, he did stop to nibble on some cabbage. And then munched on a few string beans. And then even ate a whole cucumber. Well, needless to say, by the time Peter arrived at the carrot patch, he wasn't as hungry as before. But that didn't stop him from yanking 2 big carrots from out of the ground and eating them in seconds. Oh boy. And nothing like fresh carrots. And with that, he pulled 2 more out and ate them as well. And then he ate another 2. And another. And another. And another. Till soon, Peter was full. So full, he could hardly move. "I think it's time for a little nap," he said. And so Peter wobbled over to a large head of lettuce, which he used as a pillow. And with a smile upon his face, quickly fell asleep. Well, a short time later, who should happen to be walking straight towards the carrot patch but none other than Mr. McGregor the gardener. Well, you can just imagine the expression on his face when he arrived at the carrot patch and discovered that most of his carrots had been eaten. When, all of a sudden, he heard something. Ugh, what in the world? He wondered. It almost sounded as if someone or something was snoring. So, Mr. McGregor followed the strange noise until he came to the answer to the puzzle. There, cuddled up beside a large head of lettuce, lay a sleeping rabbit with little bits of carrot in his whiskers and fur. I think it's time for this rabbit to learn a lesson, he said. And so, just as Mr. McGregor was about to take hold of Peter by the ears, Peter hiccuped and woke up and saw Mr. McGregor's big hands coming straight towards him. Faster than a twitch of a nose, Peter leaped through Mr. McGregor's hands, and the great garden chase began! Peter swerved and dodged, hopping for his life. Woohoo! Round and round the garden he dashed, jumping over rows of freshly planted seeds. Zigzagging alongside the garden hose. And even diving through a thicket of thorny rose bushes. But as hard as Peter tried to escape, Mr. McGregor stayed close behind, cutting off at every turn. Finally, Peter darted to the tool shed and quickly looked for a place to hide. A barrel! Without a moment's hesitation, Peter leaped into the barrel, only to discover that the barrel was full of water. Ah! Well, moments later, Mr. McGregor entered the tool shed. He searched everywhere, behind the sacks of seeds, under the work table, even on top of the highest shelf. Well, that pesky rabbit was nowhere to be found. Luckily for Peter, Mr. McGregor didn't think to look inside the water-filled barrel. Well, finally, Mr. McGregor left the tool shed and continued to search outside while Peter floated about in his hiding place, doing his best not to shiver too loudly. Well, some time later, and when Peter could no longer hear Mr. McGregor's footsteps, he quietly made his way out of the tool shed, leaving a wet trail behind him. Poor Peter. Well, he was drenched. His clothes were torn. He even lost one of his shoes during the chase. Oh dear. What am I going to do? What will I tell Mama? Well, Peter quickly made his way out of the tool shed, but the rest of the way home seemed long and hard. He tripped over tree roots and slipped on dead leaves. And even twice stunned his foot on a rock. Well, by the time Peter arrived home, he wasn't feeling so good. But he was sneezing and shivering all over. Not to mention, his whole body ached with pain. And so, that night, as Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail were joyously eating their delicious blackberry pie dessert, Peter, on the other hand, lay sick in bed, sipping on a big spoonful of yucky cough syrup. And so, remember, friends, next time your mothers tell you to do something, it might be a good idea to do just that. And now, my friends, we wanted to finish the first half with kind of a celebratory theme. And we just happened to discover that today is actually a holiday. That's right. Little did you know that today is actually Russian Composers' Day. And so, we found a list of some of our most beloved Russian composers, and we've decided to share it with you. Ladies and gentlemen, an ode to Russian composers. Comrades! There's Malachevsky, Rubinstein, Arensky, and Tchaikovsky, Sapernikov, Dmitriev, Cherepnin, Kryzhanovsky, Godowsky, Archipchev, Muniusko, Akimenko, Soloviev, Prokofiev, Tiomkin, Koreschenko. There's Glinkovin, Kropotnyatsky, Rybikov, Ilyinsky. There's Metner, Balakirev, Solotarev, and Koshinsky, and Sokolov, and Kopilov, Lukatsky, and Klenotsky, and Shostakovich, Borodin, Briere, and Novokovsky. There's Leonov, and Karganov, Markevich, Panchenko, and Targovitsky, Siermachevskaya, and Vaselenko, Stravinsky, Rimsky-Korsakov, Kosarsky, and Vechaninov, and Glazanov, and Kesselky, Kalashnikov, Rachmaninov, Stravinsky, and Rachmaninov, Rubchitsky, and Rachmaninov. I really have to stop because this list is really long enough. Happy Russian Composers' Day! Oh, I love it so much. Let's do it again. There's Malachevsky, Rubinstein, Arensky, and Tchaikovsky.